What's going on, New York Giants fans? Welcome back to another video. If you guys haven't already, hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or video drops. More content coming out throughout the week. Either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, you guys will have a podcast episode to listen to and to watch. Big Blue in the Bronx podcast. I'm trying my best to get a Patriots content creator on here so I could get their perspective of things, but that hasn't necessarily worked out the greatest. But once again, the podcast episode will still come out Friday or Saturday or one of the days, and I'll try to do my best with research and stuff like that. And also the roster bubble videos and Yankee videos that will continue throughout the week. I'm going to do an athletics recap, but it's also going to be hard because that game starts 7 o'clock on Sunday. The Giants game starts at 6, but we'll see what happens. I'll try to mix in the two games, do whatever. With that being said, there is a couple of things we do need to talk about in this video. Two are related to the quarterback position, not really affecting the Giants on the inside, but on the outside affecting the inside as well within the next two games. And there's some practice takeaways, and there's also news about two injured players that we'll talk about as well. So the first one is going to be that I just found this out. Cam Newton will actually practice against the New York Giants tomorrow in the second and final joint practice between the two this season, this preseason. And I thought that was interesting because the protocol said 5 days or something like that because of the whole situation that happened to him. I'm not going to go any further, but I thought, hey, listen, he's not going to play till the preseason game, this, that, and the other thing. But according to the Giant Insider newspaper podcast or whatever the hell it's called, they said that Cam Newton will play in tomorrow's practice. And if he plays, if he practices, he's probably going to be in the preseason game with the ones, and then maybe Mac Jones will split time with the ones as well on Sunday. But Mac Jones had a pretty good day today. He, I think, had like 20-something completed passes in a row or something like that. Carved up the Giants secondary. Obviously, there's a player, the secondary hurt. We'll talk about that. The other news is that Teddy Bridgewater will start for the Denver Broncos in Week 1 against the Giants. Now, two options. Obviously, the primary options, they did have a quarterback in the preseason were Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, and Rippon is the third guy. Obviously, Rippon was never considered for the job. But my point here is mainly that, Drew Lock, he's more prone to turning over the ball, but he's still young, and he has some high upside left in him if any team is waiting to take a chance on that coming into his third year. And Teddy Bridgewater, well, he's been in this league for a while. I actually think that the Panthers are still paying a good chunk of his salary. According to Andrew Brandt, they're actually paying him $7 million this year to be the Broncos starter, and the Broncos are paying him $3 million. But the cap charge this year for the Broncos is $4.4 million, and the Panthers cap charge this year is $17 million. So obviously he signed that big contract and then got traded. But the point is that Teddy Bridgewater, though he had success in his early days with the Minnesota Vikings, he is not a guy, in my personal opinion, to be scared of. They have a good defense. A lot of Broncos fans are excited about that defense, and for that type of defense, if it's going to be as good as it is advertised on paper, they obviously did well the first two games against the Vikings and the Seahawks. But my point is, if it is as good as advertised, you need a game manager. That's what Teddy Bridgewater has been in the last couple of years. He's been a bridge quarterback to multiple young quarterbacks. Obviously, he was a backup in New Orleans for a little bit. After Minnesota, he was with the Jets for a little bit. Then he got traded. And then in 2020, he started 15 out of 16 games for the Carolina Panthers, throwing 15 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. And, the stats even prove that he's more of a game-managing quarterback, 15 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. The height of his career in terms of touchdowns was 15, and that was last year. A lot of people were excited, as I said, at the beginning of his career, what can this guy do, whatever. He got hurt, And, he's basically turned into a bridge/game manager quarterback. But once again, he's not really somebody, oh my God, he's going to throw 300 yards against the Giants defense. Yeah, maybe in check downs and crossing routes, but not, deep passes torching the defense. But the game will either way come down to the defense. I'm not even doubting that at this point. So, could we see Drew Lock at last minute if there's an injury? But Bridgewater is going to be starting against the New York Giants. I think this is the first time he's starting against them since 2015, because 2016 he was hurt. Sam Bradford was the quarterback for the Vikings, so it was 2015. It was that game the Giants got crushed in. I think it was like 49-17 the score or something like that. But that was 6 years ago. This is in the now. So that's pretty much it for the outside news. A couple of camp takeaways, but we're going to go over one of the major things first. Kyle Rudolph has made his way off of the PUP physically unable to perform list. It was a long time coming. A lot of Giants fans, including myself, saw that, he was catching passes before the Browns game last Sunday. A lot of people starting getting skeptical. Hey, is this guy going to come off? Is he not going to come off? Is he ready? Whatever. A lot of Giants fans saw it as a good sign, and now he is off the PUP list. I highly doubt he plays on Sunday, but I think it's for the better because we need him ready for week 1 to be a red zone target, just to be, that guy. He's not going to be, 1,500-yard tight ends, something like that, unreal expectations. Obviously, he's going to be playing alongside Evan Ingram and Caden Smith for that position, and if the Giants happen to carry a fourth tight end, they've been doing that in week 1 for the past 2 years, both being Eric Tomlinson. So I found that interesting as well. But the other news is not really encouraging, but, it's, for a lack of better words, better news than the opposite side, or I should say better news than many have anticipated, that Adoree Jackson got hurt. He was taken off the field at first. I think it was a hydration issue because a lot of the guys in New England today were very dehydrated. It was so hot outside. Corey Clement came off the field. There was another guy that came off the field, but Adoree Jackson came off. He came back on, but in coverage, he hurt his ankle and was carted off. Now, that is absolutely not the greatest sign for the New York Giants. Now, Ian Rappaport, and I'm not going to credit Pat Leonard unless he actually deserves the credit, but I'm pretty sure it was Ian Rappaport who said this. He said that it's a sprained ankle. They're going to determine the severity of the injury, whether it's a high ankle sprain or it's just an ankle sprain, because high ankle sprain does take a couple of more weeks. And, they avoided the worst. So, when you hear the word cart, you're not necessarily thinking positively. But they really haven't ruled him out for tomorrow's practice, which once again is encouraging. And with that being said, if the injury is severe, leave him out till week 1, week 2. We have the corner depth for a reason. This guy hasn't played all 16 games since 2018. I thought that would be a fact to put in there. And we'll see what happens. But once again, we have a lot of corner depth. Darnay Holmes, Julian Love, some of the other guys on this roster, Keon Crossan, Josh Jackson, Radarius Williams, they're all going to get tested at some point. Whether it's an injury or it's one play off the field or something happens, I don't know. But one way or another, those guys will get tested this season. So prayers out to Adoree, but as of right now, it does not look that serious. I'm just going to go over, this is not really chronological order, but just some things from the beat reporters today. Mac Jones, as I mentioned earlier, he tore up the Giants' defense. He had like 20-something completed passes in a row. Not encouraging for the Giants' defense, knowing the expectation, but obviously we have tomorrow's practice and the Sunday game to really determine what this defense could look like going into the 2021 season. According to one beat reporter, Darnay Holmes has gotten beat a lot in the slot in camp. He had another rough practice today, something to keep an eye on. Obviously, there's no real competition there because Aaron Robinson is on the PUP list and may start the season on that list because he has not come back. He has not practiced. He's been working on the side with the trainers. There was a scrum early on in practice. The Patriots D-line the Patriots O-line and the Giants D-line. It seemed like Dexter Lawrence was in there somehow or somebody, but Joe Judge and Bill Belichick put the discipline on and made their guys run a lap. And obviously, Bill Belichick's not really known for that stuff. He's a hard coach, but everybody's saying, oh, Joe Judge is making these guys run laps. Now Belichick is doing it, so we'll see what happens. Another point in terms of Joe Judge and stuff like that, everyone's talking about, Saquon Barkley is going to be ready week 1, whatever. Joe Judge said today, basically, I would say putting the conclusion out there, inferring, however you want to call it, that Saquon Barkley will be taking reps in some sort of action. And specifically, he did say, I forget what he specifically said, but he did say, before the game ramps up, before the regular season comes on, he needs to get reps with contact, whether that be in practice or in a preseason game, and then the game moves faster. So I thought that would be a sign possibly that if he's healthy, he may get some reps Sunday. Personally, I'm not a fan of that, but also I'm not an NFL coach. I'm a YouTube content creator. But he should face contact in practice, because if you're going to just go into practice, or I should say go into a game and, not have any practice in terms of, getting hit, that's what you're going to face in a game. If, this is something we talked about on the Boys in Big Apple podcast, with people saying, oh, cancel the preseason, do only joint practices. How are you supposed to get ready if practice and joint practices are two-hand touch, they're not tackle, but the game is tackle and it's hard hitting, So we'll see what happens with Saquon Barkley. Some other stuff, Ellerson Smith and John Ross were working with the trainers. Ellerson Smith, in my opinion, is likely going to start the season on IR or PUP. They'll put him on the 53 and just say, hey, listen, for the first 3 to 6 weeks, you're going to be on there. And also John Ross, we haven't seen much of him since his injury, and that worries me because he was showing a lot early in camp, and right now, obviously, it's not so much. Does he start the season on IR, which is the first 3 weeks? I want him to be ready for week 1 because I want to see this 1-year deal work out. But, obviously, I don't have a crystal ball in my hand, even though this looks crystal and silver, whatever. Shane Lemieux was not at practice today, or was not practicing with the Giants on a regular basis. Obviously, he's still trying to come back from that injury. Kenny Wiggins stepped in at left guard through the offensive walkthrough at the start of the practice, so that kind of tells you they still like Wiggins after his poor performance in week 1. Galladay, Tony, Ross, and Ellerson Smith were on the side with the trainers. Nate Solder looked good in left tackle and right tackle reps. I thought that was very encouraging because, what if Matt Parrott is sidelined with an injury? What if Andrew Thomas is sidelined with an injury? There were a lot of questions coming into this year. Should they cut Solder? Should they not cut Solder? And especially the way the offensive line has performed in the first 2 weeks, at least the second team, this guy gives us confidence. We do not forget about the first part of his contract, the first part of his tenure with the Giants, but the second half could be very useful, even though we already have 2 starting offensive tackles right now. Corey Clement, obviously, I did mention he was dehydrated. Jabril Peppers was that other player that was dehydrated, so that's, something to put there. Darius Slayton was also injured. We don't know the significance of the injury, where on his body, but according to Jordan Ronan, he was injured, so we'll have to find out more about that, obviously concerning that he may play on Sunday. Ifeadi Odenigbo had his best day at practice, but the rest of the pass rush was quiet. I take that with a grain of salt, and I'm not saying this because Odenigbo really hasn't performed in the preseason, but my point is that you don't know when the hell they blow the whistle practice. You don't know that. So they could blow it now. They could blow it, when the quarterback's coming out of the pocket. It's, once again, two-hand touch, and it's up to the refs at practice. It's not up to Bill Belichick, hey, stop the play. It's not up to Joe Judge, hey, stop the play. It's very difficult to determine. And obviously, the beat writers will do their best to tell the truth, or at least we can draw that conclusion. But once again, we're not there. There were a couple of fans there. The Talking Giants guys were there. Snacks and Justin were there. So obviously they took more away, and they actually saw what happened, or probably gave the Talking Giants audience a report. Mac Jones had a 34 of 40 passing with one incompletion being a spike in a 2-minute drill. I mean, that was, that looked like it was bad. That looked like it was bad for the Giants defense once again. And going back to one of the beat reporters, what they said earlier, and what I said earlier, quoting them, Darnay Holmes got picked on in the slot a lot. So obviously, once again, Daniel Jones did throw a bad interception. I think it was in the red zone. Actually, yeah, it was in the red zone. Wide receivers had trouble getting open. This isn't something that is new to the Giants fans. For the last few years, ever since OBJ's gone, and let's face facts, I like the trade, but the receivers have had a tough time of getting separation, and that's caused the offense to really deteriorate in the last couple of years. Other than that, yeah, Mac Jones, he had a streak run to 18 consecutive completions, and he had a ball tipped at the line. I thought they were talking about Daniel Jones for a second, like, oh my God, there's two Joneses, Mac Jones versus Daniel Jones. But he was 21 of 23 so far in a point of practice, and he also completed 14 consecutive passes. So that's obviously very good for the Patriots side of things. For the Giants side of things, it's not really that great. Lorenzo Carter got frustrated because they were not blowing the plays dead. Obviously, once again, that's what I was talking about just a few seconds ago. You don't know when they're going to blow the play dead. It's two-hand touch in practice. So, you really have to take that stuff with a grain of salt. Obviously, I mentioned the D-line and the O-line running laps after the fight. And the last one, in one of the first few drills at the goal line, at the 6-yard line, Daniel Jones was 3 for 5, 2 touchdowns to Evan Ingram, 1 to Caden Smith, and 1 throwaway due to good coverage. So that basically wraps up this video. The Teddy Bridgewater news, the Cam Newton news, Mac Jones tearing up the Giants defense in practice, and all the other news. With that being said, guys, if you haven't already liked, comment, subscribe, turn on notification buttons, you get notified when live stream pops video drops. Appreciate y'all. More content throughout the week. Yankees roster bubble videos for the Giants, stuff like that. Peace out. See you later and stay cool.